We're going to bridge the teachings of Christ, the teachings of Jesus, and show and prove using actual facts that Jesus was teaching neuroscience. He was a teacher of nervous system regulation using the language of Hebrewism and the culture of his day and time. So what if this is true? What if Jesus, his teachings weren't just a spiritual message, but a message of neuroscience to help people stay regulated so that they can be in tune with source energy? And we know spirituality is really no definition to it. It's very ambiguous. It can't be measured. It can't be necessarily trained. You have different paths to spirituality. And that very ambiguity leads to a function of the brain or a state known as incoherence or the lack of clarity. So this is why people have this whole attraction many times to things that are mysterious, things that are hidden. Even the algorithm will favor titles that are ambiguous and secretive and hidden because the brain seeks to get out of. So Jesus actually provided nervous system regulation hacks, if you will, 2,000 years ago. And neuroscience confirms it as coherence. And I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel to get more videos that's going to break this information down in terms of bridging this information. So what is neuroregulation? What is coherence? Well, it's the peace that Jesus taught us, and it's the peace that we need to train. So regulation is staying clear and coherent under stress. Staying clear, coherent under stress, under pressure. And coherence is when the heart and the brain and the nervous system are in harmony. When they are in harmony, they function to its greatest capacity with the least amount of friction and the least amount of static. And this is what causes you to broadcast a signal in your aura, right? Scientifically known as your biofield of coherence. So now you're able to attract. Now you're able to really make things manifest in your life. The key is in your coherence or in the peace that Jesus taught. I remember the scene spoken of in the Bible when Christ and the disciples were on a vessel in the ocean and a violent storm came. And during that storm, the disciples were panicking. They were in absolute terror. But Jesus was asleep. He was asleep during all of that turmoil and that perceived danger or stress. What's the takeaway? A dysregulated nervous system can't rest. It can't sleep, and it doesn't have peace, especially during life's storms. But a regulated system sleeps through the storm. And what did Christ say? He said, peace. They woke him up and said, Master, we're in danger. And finally, he arose and said, peace, be still. Now, when he commanded that, what he did was his internal state was so regulated and so peaceful and so harmonious and aligned with source energy that he called the Father, that inner state of regulation, calibration, harmony, and peace began to exude a signal and created peace in the external environment. So what is that teaching us? When we remain coherent and at peace within, it will begin to radiate without in our life. Our ancient masters taught this as well in terms of ancient chem through universal law, that as within, so without. And that was passed on into the Bible as well. But it comes from ancient Egypt. As within, so without. As in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. It's something called the law of correspondence. Matthew 6:25-34. He tells us, don't worry about life. Don't stress out. Look at the birds. The birds aren't stressed. They're not fretting. And God feeds them. And you're worth more than the birds. So if you look out your window right now, wherever you're at, and look at the birds or the squirrels, or just look at nature, everything is provided for. The Father is the provider. You don't need to stress and worry. And that worry, scientifically and biologically, elevates your cortisol levels in your brain, which is your stress response hormone. And what it does is disrupts your coherence, and it breaks your inner peace, and it locks you into something called the reptilian brain, or the limbic system of the brain, which is your basic survival circuits. And in your basic survival circuits, higher thought is suspended, consciousness is suspended, and you go into basic survival mode like animals do when they are in a threat mode. So if you're in a traffic jam, you breathe and think, relax. Again, this is all about training. God's got the birds. He has the deer, he has the squirrels, all of the animals. And he's got me. And this will help you shift from a sympathetic centered or functioning system, nervous system, to a parasympathetic. And that means it brings you at peace. The parasympathetic is what kicks in when it's time to relax, when it's time to go to sleep. Okay. It's your calming function of your nervous system. Matthew 18:21-35, Jesus teaches forgiveness repeatedly. Forgive as we forgive. You see, when you hold grudges, you still holding on to bitterness, things that may have happened to you or things that people have done to you. When you hold those grudges and you don't forgive, that causes chronic stress in your system. It causes inflammation in your system. It even causes inflammation in your joints. So if you have back pain, some people say lower back pain or knee pain or hip pain, these different pains can be associated with holding on to grudges, holding on to trauma in your life, right? So your cortisol goes up, your dysregulation goes up, and inflammation grows in your body as well, which manifests in your joints' ability to be properly lubricated and flexible. So the key to these teachings is surrender. And in surrender, you let go, right? And you release the impulse to control. They call it let go and let God. When you reduce your need to control and you surrender in peace, anxiety drops and it supports deep coherence and peace. Breathe and let go. We're going to teach all of this coming in the spring. That is the kingdom, and that is what we must train.